2008 alum of Archbishop Murphy High School and current sports director at KVAL in Eugene, Oregon. Sky Muller is also a graduate of the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication at Washington State University. During college, Sky found his passion for broadcasting as he gained experience as an anchor, sports reporter, and weathercaster for the school's Cable 8 nightly news station. When he wasn't in front of the camera, he was behind the microphone hosting his weekly sports talk radio show or providing color commentary for the college's various sports teams. Upon graduation, he has spent time covering the USA water polo team before they headed to the 2012 London Olympics, hyping up crowds as the on-field MC for one of the Mariners' minor league affiliates, and as a sideline reporter covering high school football for Fox Sports 1380. Most recently, he spent time working for KCBY in Coos Bay, Oregon. While in Coos Bay, Sky covered everything from the local high school sports teams to high-profile cases at the county courthouse. But before all of the lights and cameras, Sky was a student at Archbishop Murphy High School. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Sky Muller.
And even though it's average compared to the 80s we'll see tomorrow, we will notice that go down.
All right. Travis, thank you. We have sports. It's coming up here on KVAL News at 6 with Sky Muller.
And now, KVAL Sports from the Eugene Urgent Care Sports Desk.
It's been a great year in the world of sports for Archbishop Murphy High School alumni. We have a shortstop leading the way for a top 10 baseball program at Oregon State, a Rose Bowl champion with Stanford, and a Super Bowl champion with the Broncos. But now for a guy whose only championship came in City League softball, we go live to Archbishop Murphy High School for a press conference with 2008 grad and Star Breakfast keynote speaker, Sky Muller. Sky?
In the industry, that's what we call the magic of television, two places at once, so thank you, Sky, from the past. As I begin this press conference, we're doing the press conference idea as to give you guys a take on what it is I cover on a daily basis. And I'd like to start off, though, by saying what an honor it is to have been chosen to come be your keynote speaker for the Star Breakfast this year. When I first agreed to this, they showed me last year's speech, and I realized it was a Harvard student. And so I thought to myself, I said, you know what? They must have known that Washington State University is commonly referred to as the Little Harvard of the West. It was that, or they knew that a Coug grad was the only one foolish enough to follow up a speech of a Harvard student. But either way, here I am now, you're stuck with me, and so we're gonna get after it. I brought my own fellow class of 2008 grads to act as my press row, all very esteemed members of the press. We're going to begin with Fred Hines. First question.
Thanks, Scott. Fred Hines, working in real estate. I got the invite and it said NBC TV personality. I was kind of hoping that you meant Jimmy Fallon or Ellen DeGeneres. But, yeah, can you bring us up to speed on what it is you do?
Yeah, definitely. First off, sorry to disappoint you there. Not quite up to Fallon, but I was voted most likely to be a late-night talk show host in the senior yearbook, and I have not let that dream die just yet. But currently, I'm a sports director for the CBS and NBC affiliates down in Eugene, Oregon. Spend most of my days covering the University of Oregon and Oregon State University athletics, and then anchoring the evening sportscast on CBS. And over the last year, I've been very fortunate enough to cover events such as the Alamo Bowl, the Super Bowl, and most recently this last month, the Ducks' journey to the Elite Eight. And just to put it all into perspective for you, I've got another video clip.
So I guess Bear Bryant's famous quote, offense sells tickets while defense wins championships, holds some merit, at least in the Broncos storyline. According to Taroney Preville, new defensive coordinator Brady Hoke brings swag to the field. According to Coach Hoke, he has no swag, struggling so much at the plate, an 11-run effort. You got to think Coach Holbrook likes that. And then how about also after you just get embarrassed a little bit on Friday night to come back and win the next two?
Okay.
You should check it out though online.
Okay.
Somebody's picking up a marmot.
What is it?
It's pretty creepy though. And as Dana Altman put it, as soon as they get over the hurt, they're going to look back on this season with great pride. In Anaheim with the Ducks, I'm Sky Muller. Let's go back to you.
All right, next up, we've got Ryan Burke.
Hi, Sky Ryan.
It's on.
Sky Ryan Burke, Beyond Sports. I noticed in that clip you do a lot of talking. Have you always been the type of person that couldn't keep his mouth shut?
Friendly question. Funny enough, as I think back to when I was in kindergarten, I can't really recall it, but as my mom tells me, my kindergarten teacher was questioning whether or not I would ever talk, as I was one that kind of sat in the classroom and was more the observer and soaked in what was happening around me. But then as the years went on, as I got to high school, that clearly changed, and I definitely turned into the one who couldn't keep his mouth shut while in class. And it did get me into just a little bit of trouble. There's one of my most vivid memories, sophomore year, world cultures, Mrs. Smith's class. Fred, you were in there, you know all about it. We did a little too much talking, and eventually word got over to our football coach, Terry Ennis, as it always did. And I'll never forget this. I went into practice one day, just a sophomore, and coach calls me over. And if you do coach, you know what he lacked in stature, he more than made up for in intensity. And so I'm sitting there, I'm as nervous as can be, and he calls me over and he says, "Now, Sky, do you learn things the hard way or the easy way?" And my mind starts racing. I'm thinking, okay, hard way. What's hard way? Hard way is going to be me out on that football field running gassers until I'm getting sick. So you got to say easy way. It's going to be the easy way, coach. I was so nervous. I can't even recall if I answered his question. It was more of a understanding. I went and got geared up, and from that moment on, tried not to talk in class as much. But it was moments like those as life went on that I discovered the true value of those impromptu lessons from guys like Coach Ennis and the rest of the staff here at Archbishop Murphy High School. Next up, Emma.
Yes, I'm Nelson here. Thank you for taking my question. Can you be a little more specific as to how those lessons got you to where you are today?
Yes, I can, sure. Good question. Let me start by saying I've lived a very blessed life, but many of those blessings are the result of a work ethic instilled at Murphy to reach a little bit further when setting your goals. Going back to my time at Washington State University, I was fortunate enough to graduate early thanks to some Spanish credits from Senor Moyer, Spanish 3 and 4. Those got me out of there a semester early. I immediately went down after graduating December of 2011, the following January, down to Santa Barbara. Old high school buddy was down there, and we kicked around this idea. He was covering the water polo team, and I wanted to start a video blog on the team. After a few months, didn't really go as I had envisioned it in my head, so I came back home and I started sending out all the applications to TV stations all over the markets, hoping to get my big break into the industry. Well, months go by, a year goes by. I was beginning to wonder if my phone even worked or if I put the right phone number on there, as I didn't hear from anyone. And it was after those months where I really started to question or even wonder if I would get my shot at living my dream, or if I would have to go and choose a different career path. And then boom, just like that, April 2013, the phone rings. It's a news director in Eugene, Oregon, and the first news director I ever heard from. And we go back and forth for a month, writing tests, newsreel sends out. Next thing you know, I land the gig at the bureau of our Eugene station down in Coos Bay, Oregon. Man, small coastal town, about 9,000 people, on the national map for being the hometown of the famous U.S. distance runner Steve Prefontaine. And that year-long struggle to find a job, it wasn't the route that I would have chose, but it was the hard road, and it tested my patience a bit and really made me self-reflect on if the dream was really worth it, and it was just one of many times that I thought back to those lessons from the practice field with Coach Ennis. Pat?
Patrick Kelly, Black Rock Defensive Advisors. Scott, you were part of the senior group that went through a lot in the fall of 2007. How did that football season affect you?
Well, there's no doubt it definitely did, in short. It's another day that I know a lot of us will never forget, fall of 2007. It was before the days of Twitter and Facebook to where now you wake up and you know exactly the news. There was a time when I got to school. I remember parking in the parking lot, heading towards Grace Hall and being redirected down to the locker room and just crushed as you walk in there. And you find out that we lost Coach Ennis. It was the first time I really had ever experienced a death like that of someone that meant so much to me. And there's nothing quite like seeing a group of your best friends and the most macho guys on campus just broken down like that. It's kind of ironic, though, to look back on that previous summer. We spent time at Camp Brotherhood to grow our team as a unit, and you couldn't have scripted something that would have broken us down and galvanized our team more and created a brotherhood than that moment that we went through that day. And now I can kind of joke as I think back to just those first few weeks of that football season. We started down in Las Vegas, and Coach Ennis, he was clearly ill, but the coaches did a good job of kind of hiding it from the players. And I know Coach didn't really want us to know how ill he actually was. And so we're down in Las Vegas. It's 100 degrees on the football field. And Coach, he just never lost his presence. He was still on the sideline, as intense as ever, guiding us to victory that day in Las Vegas. And hard-fought game. We come back home next week. It's Black Hills down in Tumwater, Washington, and we're winning 49-0. And you know what 49-0 meant? That meant it was my time to see the field. That's how good I was at football. So, I'm out there. There's still plenty of time left on the clock. We're trying to preserve this shutout so we could have a bagel party. When we did shutout, we had a bagel party on Wednesday for the defense, and so I'm trying to preserve it. I'm playing defensive back, and I'm playing a little loose coverage. Don't want to get burnt out there, and they keep throwing routes underneath me, and we keep kind of forcing them out of bounds. And finally, Coach Capena-Juan, who was our defensive backs coach at the time, he calls over, he's like, "Muller, you got to play a little tighter out there." So I'm like, "Okay, Coach, I got this one." The very next play, just boom. Burnt toast for a touchdown, 49-7, the final score. And we lost Coach that following week, and it irks me every time I think about it that the last thing Coach saw of me was getting burnt for a touchdown, and I couldn't have gotten him that interception. But the story goes, we're undefeated. Clerical error slips through the cracks later in the season, expired physical, and the season vanishes just like that. It was the following weeks and so forth that really stuck with me, where Archbishop Murphy let us seniors and our team take a stand for what we truly believed in and have a voice and fight our case with the powers that be at the WIAA. Looking back on it, I don't think just any school would have allowed their students in that moment or trusted them in that moment to go stand up and fight for what they really believe in. But that's what made us different. And there was an article written by Rick Riley of Sports Illustrated. In it, he has a line where he mentions that the kids are acting more adult than the adults, those adults being the men and women in charge of athletics in the state of Washington. And it's something that I think was a direct correlation of Archbishop Murphy and our time here, where the staff just doesn't teach you the book smarts, but also how to carry yourself in a mature fashion. There was another quote towards the end of that article from fellow senior Ryan Burke, sitting front row here, and he was asked to reflect on what Coach Ennis would have been saying to us in that moment, and as Ryan explains it, he says, Coach would be going, "Men, it's not about what happened, it's about what you do from this point forward that will define you as a man." And that's really stuck with me. It's a message that Coach got through to all of his players, and now there's numerous former Murphy football players and even non-football players that are doing big things, including the 11 of us seniors who were on that football team. And one of the big things that I know still drives me was that Coach Ennis was like one of your parents, in the sense that he sacrificed so much for us. It was his passion for winning, his unique understanding of failure that left you determined to seek success and move forward from failure. As I was looking over some articles preparing for this speech, I came across one in the Seattle Times, and it was written a few days after Archbishop Thomas J. Murphy passed away back in 1997. And as I'm reading this article, where friends and colleagues of Murphy are reflecting on the man he was, a man who passed along his faith and gave tirelessly of himself, I couldn't help but think how much the notions of sacrifice and faith related to my experience here at Archbishop Murphy High School. The article closes with a quote from now former Seattle University Provost John Eshelman, recapping Archbishop Murphy's final days. And as I read this, I'm going to read it verbatim, as I don't want to miss anything that he says. Tell me if this doesn't remind you of a certain football coach in his final days. He was a model for all of us in his last days, whether Catholic or not. His real faith in the face of adversity over these last few months is awe-inspiring. No one could watch him going about his work without having a real admiration for his faith and his courage. He continued to bear up and serve his people right up to the last, with a schedule that would have made a healthy man tired. And it wasn't just Coach, it was every person I came into contact over my 4 years here at Murphy that played a role in shaping my life. That article on Archbishop Murphy made it clear he was big on sacrificial giving. He believed giving, including giving your time, your talent, and your treasure. The teachers and staff at Archbishop Murphy really embody that belief. Murphy has a very talented staff, and they always made time for all of us students. I like to think of the things I got involved in while I was outside of the classroom that really shaped who I was. Everything from the campus ministry retreats, the overnight retreats, helping people that were in a much worse place than we were often with. And Miss Kinney and Mr. Crane were big into getting us out there and into the community. And we live a very privileged life compared to a lot of people. And that put a lot into perspective and helped us grow, I know, as young men and women. And of course, mock trial with Mr. Brodniak, some of the funnest times in those courthouses. You don't always often say that, fun times in courthouses, but it really taught me how to think on my feet and present to an audience in a sincere way where they trusted the message I was delivering. Just so happens I try and do that every day when the lights go on the TV. Never forget journalism with Mrs. Zellner in the back. We got that thing started. Hope it's still going strong, but it was just a little peek into the world I live now. And he taught me so much over the time here that I still use every day. Ultimate Frisbee with Mr. Crane, maybe not the thing you'd think of, but it was just another moment of sacrifice, an after-school activity, not a sporting event that anyone was getting paid to coach or go do or anyone was committed to, but Mr. Crane sacrificed time that he could have been spending, I'm sure, elsewhere with family and friends, and he spent it with us students. And it was that kind of stuff that really stuck with me over my years, and I continue to think of all the sacrifices and that sacrificial giving that the teachers and staff here really embody that I'll carry with me through my days. And of course, we can't forget Mr. Blair. He's not here today. I stopped by his office yesterday because there was no person really quite like Mr. Blair in that he very literally was that soft voice to help you tackle all the hard decisions throughout your college, or rather high school, and choosing what college you would go to. Mr. Clapp and my theology teachers, when I first got to Archbishop, the idea of 4 years of theology made me a little uneasy. Unlike most of my classmates, I didn't grow up going through Catholic school. I hadn't fully studied the ins and outs of Catholicism, aside from some weekly CCD classes on Wednesday nights. I was more of the kind of person, I think, like a lot of elementary students, that just kind of went through the motions my whole life and knew what I believed but didn't fully understand what it meant to be Catholic. Through 4 years here, that was one of the bigger things for me, was going in depth in my faith. But in a more outside of the box way it's guided me is the way Mr. Clapp approached his class. When I think about the career path I'm on, I definitely know it's not the safe route, it's not the easy path. I've been told plenty of times, Sky, the cards are stacked against you. From college broadcast courses where they advise, you sure you don't want to go into sales? A lot more money involved there. Or, you ever thought about producing? It's an easier in, you'll climb faster. I don't want to be a producer, I would say. It continues. Even when you're in the industry, people question your dreams. They give unsolicited advice that my dream, for some reason or another, is less attainable than theirs, and maybe telling me it's even impossible. It's these moments I think back to junior year theology class with Mr. Clapp. He taught theology in this special way. Special in the sense that it wasn't, here's what Catholics believe in, but more, let me teach you what all of these religions believe in, because Catholic or not, people are going to approach you and they're going to try and tell you what you believe is incorrect. And they're going to attempt to push their own agenda onto you. Well, looking back, that stretches beyond religion for me, and I see it professionally. No matter how many people question what I do or my chances of, quote, making it, I truly believe in myself and my dream, and I can easily stand up and just say, wait and see. Anytime someone tries to shoot me down, there's no better feeling in the world than looking back at that doubter or that disbeliever and saying, I told you so. As I look back at my time at Archbishop Murphy High School, I can't help but feel blessed with the friendships I gained, front row table here, and many more. As I was told at one point that high school is great and everything, but it's your college friends who will last a lifetime. I had the greatest 3.5 years at college and lived every second of it to its fullest and met people from all walks of life. Many I'm still close with, but there's no doubt I'm closest with my friends from right here at AMHS. It's been one of the most comforting aspects of my journey into the unknown and often scary world that we live in. The support from my family is no doubt what has me standing in front of you today, but it's also thanks to the support of my high school friends. It's crazy because we live in this tech age now where everyone's connected 24/7. You have Twitter, you have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I know what people from my high school class are doing that I haven't spoken to since high school. It's unbelievable. But even with all of that, it seems that this rat race of life separates groups over time. That's not the case with my friends and my group, and I don't think I'm entirely unique in that. I think that's what happens when you spend 4 years in a tight-knit community like Archbishop Murphy. There's a reason a lot of the staff from when I was here is still here teaching, and there's a reason why alumni want to come back and teach here, and there's a reason friend groups never grow distant. This school grows young, naive adolescents into successful professionals, and I'm just one of 122 from the class of 2008 who can support that claim. Whatever direction life goes and whatever obstacle I must overcome along this journey that I'm on, I feel prepared thanks to all of those, many of you who helped show me the way, and the friends and family who continue to be there with me. I wish I could talk with Coach Ennis once more, bring up our conversation when I was that naive and speechless young man, and I would tell him, I'd say, Coach, you planted the seeds of choice and commitment that have blossomed me into an internal confidence that allows me to be successful in one of life's most intimidating professions, that being live television. I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's breakfast and for backing an institution whose staff display the value of sacrifice in achieving success. Thank you.